I started busking in 1977. I used to play guitar and harmonica in the rack and stand there and play folk songs and rock songs and blues songs and country songs. And then I started playing fiddle as well, and I got that in the act. And all through the 80s I played with mostly a bluegrass band down in the harbor and still by myself a lot on the street. In about 1989 or 1990, I started developing the one-man band act, initially playing with a couple of other people. Mike Nitchie played bass with me for a while, and I used to play a big kick drum and snare drum with my feet. He played hi-hat with one of his feet while he played bass. And I was playing electric guitar in those days. We were still allowed to use amps. And then after they outlawed amplification, I went to a steel body guitar, which I got from my good friend Matthew Lavers, who I also busked with briefly. And then of course the influence of Jesse Fuller was really big for me about 1990, and I was starting to get into his music and learning some of his songs and discovering other one-man bands. And we came up with the idea of the suitcase bass drum while playing on the road. Gary Thompson, when we were practicing in between gigs, we'd want to set up in the hotel room, and so we'd use a suitcase for a kick drum because it was a lot quieter and we'd just be using acoustic guitars. So that was the idea behind the suitcase bass drum. And then as the 90s progressed, I really got full tilt into the one-man band act about 1995-96, and I started bringing the fiddle back into the act, and then the mandolin. And about 2000, I got my first fotdella from Glen Orr.
Hi, my name's Glenn, and I'm the guy who built Dave's fotdella. I remember the first time I called Dave, and I actually built his bass on Salt Spring. I said, it's really cool and it works. And actually, if you look at his bass inside the hole, it actually says that somewhere right beside my picture. We will be starting his new version. The new version, unlike the old version that has 8 strings, will have 12 strings. That's in the works right now. Stay tuned.
Anyway, a number of one-man bands have been influential for me, especially Jesse Fuller. Of course, the fotdella being his invention.
I didn't mean to treat it so bad. The big yellow, she said goodbye, she liked to make me cry. I want to lay down and die.
Here's a good picture of the fotdella, his fotdella. A little bit also Wilbert Harrison, and to some extent Dr. Ross and Joe Hill Lewis and J.D. Short and some of the other lesser-known one-man bands. Wilbert Harrison wasn't a one-man band all the time.
Come on now, people, let's get on the ball and work together.
His big hit was Kansas City, and his other big hit was Let's Work Together. That was the title of this album from 1969 on the Sioux label.
And every boy, girl, woman, and man. Well, feels so good. I want a boogie. I want a boogie. I want a boogie.
Dr. Ross played left-handed upside down, and harmonica, he played the harmonica the wrong way round too. Well, not the wrong way round, the other way round. Kind of Sonny Boy Williamson influenced music and Delta blues. J.D. Short is a very obscure Mississippi blues artist who later lived in St. Louis and was a running buddy of Big Joe Williams. Here he's playing a very Tommy Johnson influenced piece.